at what point does something become an image that you choose to make it one? It's all about the decision to choose it as one, rather than it necessarily presenting itself as one, I suppose. And so the garden, I was in the garden a lot, and it was kind of interesting because it is this site where you're constantly shaping and forming things, and you know, trying to control and contrive imagery in a way, and it seemed to be presenting itself as a site, as a potential subject. Deciding to give attention to this, that point of attention giving, that point of like directing your attention to something. So to do it physically in the piece makes sense, and in other pieces things have happened in front of the camera which have kind of called attention to that on some other level. Mm-hmm. And painting does that as well. I mean, there's this just the act of painting is this kind of body making a mark kind of act, which is, I think, similar in a funny way to holding the mirror. Yeah, and it was really marking in space, and it was kind of, I had to keep shifting it in the studio in terms of what was behind it as well, because every mark sat in a room, you know, against bookshelves, against walls, and it was really good to get it in here into the white space so that the marks sit more clearly against a kind of, but they sit against the audience as well, and they shift and change in a similar way to that kind of slightly unstable or there's a kind of a frenzy in terms of image making in it as well. You know, it's like trying to pin down a mark in a space and then having to see the underside of that and trying to react to that. And although it's not necessarily a frenzied process, I think there's something about it which I've been thinking about as a kind of busyness of trying to freeze something or definitively say, give a mark. The whole process involved looking, like for me, I was looking at the mirror the whole time, not at what the mirror was looking at, obviously. And there was that whole kind of, the limitations given were really useful. And somehow the movement is one of, it's judgery because the body's breathing, because, you know, it's impossible to hold it still. So it's kind of that unsettled, lingering gaze. I don't know, it's calling attention to attention and how you might shift it and move it and try to control it.
I think the more you're in front of this piece, the more that relation to the object of the mirror changes, from experiencing its image and its illusion quality to regarding it as a thing that has a device that has a cultural context to it, that has fables and myth and folklore all woven around it if you choose to see it in that way.
It was revealing things to me. That was the point. That's the point in a way, because it's like, I knew that garden really well, but I didn't know it at all when I started doing this, because I didn't know it as an image. And it wasn't an image until I produced it as an image. And then it stopped being a garden.